Hello Internet, and welcome to another episode of The Critics. My name is Tony Gonzalez. Today we are talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and Volume 2. Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one came out in 2014, and I'll tell you what, this movie surprised the entire world. No one knew really what to expect. I knew a little bit about Guardians of the Galaxy prior to watching this movie, but I won't say I knew a lot because I didn't. I knew a couple of the characters, that was about it. But this movie was fantastic. The humor landed, the way that they took each and every one of the characters and individually kind of broke them up really just worked. This movie was so great. I like this movie a lot, if you can't tell. What are some of the great things about this? Well, a lot of things. Let's talk about the casting. Chris Pratt, big fan of his. Relatively unknown until this movie. He had done a few TV shows, been in a couple movies here or there, but small parts. This was his first real big leading role, especially as like an action type star, and he knocked it out of the park. His little one-liners and his sarcasm, it just works really well in this movie. Big fan of Chris Pratt. Zoe Saldana. You have Dave Bautista, who is in his first major acting role. Really good in this movie too. His dry, my reflexes are too fast, I would catch them. Stuff like that. It just really landed really well in that serious, kind of taking himself seriously, but at the same time the character is so obnoxious that it's funny. You also have Michael Rooker in this movie, Karen Gillan, Damon Hinoso, I probably butchered that name, but he's that guy. John C. Reilly, Glenn Close, Benicio del Toro, and the wonderful voice work of Vin Diesel and Bradley Cooper. Now I say the wonderful voice work of Vin Diesel because he fluctuated his voice a few different times, and realistically that's about the extent of his acting skill. But Bradley Cooper, you gotta give a lot of credit to, because when I first watched this movie, I didn't know it was Bradley Cooper. I've watched many movies with him in it. I feel like I could pick his voice out of a lineup, but the way that he did the voice of Rocket Raccoon just was different. And that really worked out well because I felt like this character was really fleshed out in a really good way. I really liked all of the different characters in this movie. Let's also talk about the music of this movie. Great. This is something that just everyone who you ever talk to will talk about greatness, and that is the soundtrack to this movie. The throwbacks to the 80s and 70s. Some of these great iconic songs that people have grown up with. I grew up with them, even though I'm a little bit younger. I grew up with this type of music, but now you have even younger people who didn't know anything about it. Their parents probably didn't even know anything about it. And now they're being able to hear these great songs and associate them with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's something that both 1 and 2 did that was just so good, and that was the music. The set pieces were really great. It was great to be able to go to a few different planets, see how things were. You go to Nowhere, you go to Xandar, you go to all these different places, and you just see how big this universe is. It was super cool. I loved the visual effects. I love the practical effects on a lot of things. It just was done very, very well. I like the action. Really, my only complaint is the villain. Ronan was kind of dull to me. He just was boring. He was good in itself, but he didn't look to me to be a threat. He didn't make me feel like there was actually something diabolical going on. I was more thinking about what's going to happen when Thanos comes up, because they did sprinkle him in there a little bit, which I really liked. But other than that, Ronan was just kind of there. He was a placeholder to me to form the Guardians of the Galaxy, give them a reason to come into existence, and then move on from there. I do really love this movie. I think it is great. It is one of the best Marvel films, and I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 an A. Now, just about this time last year, we got Volume 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was good. It did not live up to the hype of the first one, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad movie by any sense. It was still really good. In fact, I think what this movie did better than the last movie was this had a better villain. Kurt Russell as Ego was great. It had a actual real feel of detriment and scares to it. I felt like the galaxy was in more danger than it was in the first movie dealing with Ronan. I thought the way that they really did Ego was fantastic. Again, the chemistry between all of the main characters was really well done. The inclusion of Mantis was good. I think that at that point, a couple of the jokes between her and Drax didn't land. Some did, and some were really great, and then other ones were just kind of like And there were moments where you can tell that Dave Bautista is not the best actor in the world. Some of his stuff seemed a little bit forced, seemed a little bit pushed in there, like he was trying to get something out, and it just didn't come across the best. But he still did a great job. One thing I will say that in this movie was, for me, a little bit of a letdown is that because of them facing one gigantic planet, Ego that is, it did feel that, especially in the last climactic battle, the rest of the Guardians didn't have a lot to do. It was mainly between Star-Lord Chris Pratt versus Kurt Russell Ego, them going back and forth. But other than that, the rest of the Guardians were just kind of flying around and just trying to avoid getting destroyed. And I understand it, but I do feel like that was a little letdown. You know, you have Drax, this great warrior, Gamora, this great warrior, Rocket is this, you know, really technologically advanced raccoon that can do all these things, and it felt boring to me at that point. Well, not boring, but it made me just feel like they didn't have much to do. I really like how they included Michael Rooker again, and really they dug into his backstory a little bit about what was going on with him when he first got Peter Quill, to what that did to him as a Ravager. I thought his backstory was one of the most interesting in this movie, just short of Kurt Russell. They did a great job with him. He acted it fantastically, and at the very end, I teared up a little bit. Overall, this movie was really, really good. Not quite as good as the first one, but still definitely a great movie. I would give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 an A-. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I'm going to be putting up more videos here shortly. We're going to be talking about the Thor movies, and the rest of Marvel movies are coming up shortly after that. And until next time, you guys have a great one.